All right, so are you guys ready for this? They said yesterday when we met that they thought that they could handle anything, but I don't know if you've ever had 200 librarians in a room with you at one time. Okay.
I probably want to backpedal a little bit, huh?
So before we get into the questions about the roles of that librarians play in your district, can you guys just give us a little background about your districts, how many schools, how many librarians, just to put everything into context for us?
Well, Stephanie and all the folks here at the School Library Journal, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I want you to give yourselves a round of applause. What an awesome and engaged group of people. And a big congratulations and a thank you to all the hosts and sponsors. We had a great time last night, and the folks at Follett are outstanding. And we really had a good time last night. I'll talk more, Nader, I'll talk more about that a little later on. I don't know if I saw Joe Berry earlier and Amy here. We had a great conversation at our table, and I learned everything anyone would ever want to learn about boards and urination. So, a pleasure to be here. I'm the superintendent of the Princeton City School District that's in Southwest Ohio. I am entering my third year after spending nearly 20 years in Central Ohio around the Columbus area as a director of curriculum, where I work very closely with our media specialists, our librarians, and as a superintendent. And then about 3 years ago, I migrated to the Southwest. We have 6,300 students in our district. We have 8 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. We're 70% of our students receive free or reduced price meals. 70% of our students are of color, if you will, a third Caucasian, a third African American, and a third Hispanic. High-performing district in some regards, and in other regards, particularly with literacy issues. We're working hard, and certainly would like to take a few minutes later on to share some of the initiatives that we're currently undertaking to improve literacy in our district. We have a full-time media director, and we have 9 assistants in each of our buildings. And as our paras, our assistants retire, we are replacing them with fully licensed library media specialists.
Gerald Independent School District is a district of about just under 1,700 students. I say that, but we're also growing at a 14% growth rate. As a matter of fact, we grew 1% last week alone. That's the kind of growth we experience. We have 4 campuses, an elementary school, which is pre-K through 2, a 3 through 5 intermediate, a middle school, and a high school. I got there about 5.5 years ago. We had 1 librarian, and we had 3 paraprofessionals. Over the last 4 years, we now have a certified librarian on each and every campus. And so we're proud to be there, and we hope to maintain that as we grow.
Well, you guys both mentioned it a little bit, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into it. And Dr. Chapman, let's start with you. As you approach this strategic planning for your district, what are some of the top goals that you guys are focusing on?
First and foremost is the managing of our growth. It's very difficult to be growing that rapidly, so we have to manage that growth first and foremost. And we say that managed term because that then overarches everything we're doing with increasing student achievement, increasing student opportunities. And really, we really try to stay abreast, and we want to change and provide choices and opportunities for our students whenever they leave our schools. We want our students to be focused on a post-secondary mindset, and so that begins from pre-K all the way through high school. And we don't say our kids are going to college. I don't want our kids to go to college. We need plumbers, we need electricians, we need construction people. But we want our kids to know that when they leave, they can do what they want, and they have experienced and have the tools to do whatever it is they want. And so you can put anything in that, including literacy, including numeracy, all that applies to give that kid the ability to succeed when they walk across that stage of graduation.
So to push a little further, when you talk about that, you want we want students to think about a post-secondary career. How does assessments play a role in that? Because a lot of those
You want state assessments?
Well,
they don't.
Yeah, okay.
Real valuable assessments of, I want my kids to be able to look you in the eye, shake your hand, talk to you, and speak. That, to me, is 10 times more important than bubbling in a stupid test. And so we work with our kids and our teachers to give our students real-world skills of solving problems, being critical thinkers, being public speakers, and having those skills, those soft skills that they acquire along with academic knowledge and discernment of academic knowledge is what will have them achieve whatever happens outside of school.
Dr. Tucker, what about you and the strategic goals for your district?
Well, it first starts with developing a shared vision of what you want to become. Then developing a mission, a very short mission, 9 words, empower each student for college, career, and life success. Our kindergartners know it, our 12th graders know it, and our parents know it. So building a shared vision and a mission that we all believe in and that we all know that it's going to be a fundamental part of what our district is about. Now, what are some of the goals? If your district has 500 or 600 goals, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, you're not getting anything done. I've been superintendent of 3 districts. We've done amazing work. We've only had 5 goals in each district. Only 5 goals. Yes, 5 goals. First and foremost, we're here to improve students' academic achievement and make them great citizens. And in that, our objectives is to graduate kids. Now, we're going to prepare all of them to go to college, but we're not, and like Bill, we're not going to tell them, you have to go to college to be successful. Because we're seeing young people come out of college and drop out of college, and at the end of the day, the best school districts in the country, only about 40% of their students who go on to college graduate within 4 years. Yeah, let's be honest. And it's not that they're not prepared. They're prepared to go. There are other factors that come into play. So again, we need to move away from the narrative that every student has to go to college to be considered successful. You know? But they need to be prepared to go to college, and we need to graduate people. In the great state of Ohio, we heard Nader talk about reading rates in Michigan, and in Ohio we don't like to mention the word Michigan, but in the great state of Ohio, our students with disabilities are graduating at a higher percentage than our Hispanic and African American students. Yeah, we're doing a great job in educating our students with disabilities, but with many of our ethnic minority groups, we're doing a poor job. As I said, in my district, a third African American, a third Hispanic, a third white. Over 95% of our African American students are graduating on time in 4 years. And we've done this in 3 years. So it can be done. Yeah. And it has to be done with pushing literacy, which is one of our huge goals. And the term literacy goes way beyond reading and writing, and it goes way beyond just something that our media specialists and our librarians do. Everyone must be a teacher of literacy. So expanding that definition. And of course, we're working on helping our students be great communicators, be great citizens. And as Bill said, you want a student who leaves your district, walk up to you, shake your hand, be honest, and be respectful. And we certainly need that right now. Then, of course, being aware of the political things that are impacting us on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in Washington or at the state level.
Thank you. So this question isn't exactly on here, Rebecca. I'm going a tiny bit off script. So I do have a question when you talk about literacy. Everyone in here obviously knows the importance of independent reading, and we heard Ms. Brown talk about the role that libraries play in getting that selection. So from a district level, from the superintendent's chair, what role do you guys have in encouraging independent reading in your schools? Because I think that it's something that we all want to do, but yet making sure that that time is put into the instructional day. We're just not seeing it. Everyone's so busy. It's hard. So I just would like to hear what your guys' perspectives are, talking to your principals and teachers about the role of independent learning and reading in school.
It's the job of the superintendent to model it. Your superintendent must be the lead learner in your district. Must be the lead learner in your district. If he or she is not, well, let me back up. Let me say this. Now, you're going to find out real shortly that Bill and I are not politically correct, okay? So we're not. But I believe in this desperately, that your superintendent must be the lead learner and must be a role model in your district. You must have sacred time, and we have sacred time every day, 90 minutes a day, of devoted to literacy and independent reading. As a matter of fact, and I shared with some folks last night, Amy and some other folks at Follett, in 2016 when I was named National Superintendent of the Year, first student, which is, as you all know, which is a bus company, and we contract with them, asked me what could they do to honor me in being named National Superintendent of the Year. And I said, it's not about me, it's about our teachers and about our students. I said, what you can do, you can give me one of your buses. Donate one of your buses. Prior to my arrival, our librarians during the summer would pack their cars up with books that and many times they spent their own money. And they would go to our neighborhoods, regardless of whether the neighborhoods were wealthy or very needy. And we're very diverse economically as well. We have students in the same classroom who come from Section 8 homes, the projects, and students who come from $2 million homes. But our librarians would go to each one of our neighborhoods and deliver books. And we know that became sort of inefficient because they were not reaching everyone. And so I asked them, I said, well, first student, donate a bus. And they did. And our librarians and I just stuck my name on it, they did the work, wrote a $100,000 grant application through Scripps Howard, and they won. This bus has been outfitted, and we go to every neighborhood every day during the summer, and we go throughout the school year because literacy is important every day of the year. Yeah. We received over 15,000 donated books, and we've given out over 3,000 books to students. And it's a share program. You can keep the book or return it, and about 1,500 of those books have come back, and we just received another 4,000 books from a major publishing company.
So last question on this, and then Dr. Chapman, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who drives the bus?
Well, I'm still waiting on my CDL. Our bus drivers, through the Scripps Howard grant, it pays for the driver. And if you really want to take a look at the bus, you can follow me on Twitter. Let me put my plug in at Tucker, at Tucker1914. Or you may also go to the Princeton Mobile Book Center. You can Google it, and it'll give you the full background on it. But the grant pays for the driver.
You know, reading is important. That's why. That's how I fell in love. That's how I fell in love with books, was my library. I'll be honest with you. My mom goes to retired teachers with my high school librarian, and I still have talked to Miss Cannon all the time. And so the first for us, how do I model it? I put librarians in every campus because they're important to me and to our district. And matter of fact, it was important to one of our school board members who's a retired Clear Creek ISD teacher. As a matter of fact, she was at Clear Creek High School, and Miss Laughlin was very, very important to driving that library growth. And so, you know, we do that. But on top of that, a couple years ago, we started a summer library program, much like what you have. We're a smaller district, and about 60% of my kids come from one neighborhood, and my elementary school is in that neighborhood. And that's the school where we offer the summer free lunch program and summer free breakfast program. So what we did in the hours between breakfast and the free lunch, we opened our libraries. We started with 2 days a week, then we went to 3 days a week the next year, and then went to 4 days a week the next year. And we worked with some outside organizations, the Assistance League of Georgetown, the Rotary Club of Georgetown Sun City, to get grants. I pay for the staff. The district put money aside. We pay for the library staff to be there. They paid for all the fun stuff. And so almost 3 or 4 days a week, there's a reading time, there is a activity, and there is something else going on where they go through, and the kids check out books every week, bring them back every week. We started with that first year. The first week we had like 12 kids. The next week we had like 30 kids. We've actually had to start turning kids away because it's so packed, or they wait in line to get in and out. So we're seeing a great success of having that open. The problem with us right now is that campus is really just a pre-K through 2. We don't cater as much to the older kids. And when our new elementary school is built in a couple of years, that campus will be a pre-K through 5, and we'll have a collection that admits all those elementary ages to make sure everyone gets what they need on that piece. Second, it sounds simple. Like I said, I'm still a voracious reader. My high school librarian knows which authors not to buy, because every time of the authors that I'm reading, I buy the hardbacks and I go give them to the library. And so every Mitch Rapp novel, every John Grisham novel, every Harlan Coben novel, every Dan Brown, pretty much all of them are mine. And I love doing that because, it's the little gift that I got from that library growing up that I get to give back. And so it all goes, and that's in every district I've been in. I've done that where I've given to the high school library. All the books I read go there. And so it's very simple. And the kids know it because Holly has a Dr. Chapman selection sometimes. And so it's there, but it's nice to see. It's simple, but it makes it apparent that reading is important.
So I think a lot of us, and even as someone who's at the district level, there's lots of layers in between myself and our superintendent. So can you walk us through, besides making time for reading, what does a typical day look like for you, Dr. Chapman?
There is no typical day. The bulk of what you learn is as you move up in that administrative chain across schools. As an assistant principal, I was in contact with kids all the time. As you move up, that contact with kid decreases. The impact on kids can increase, but the contact may decrease. The bulk of my time, honestly, sometimes is not even spent dealing with school stuff. You do become more of a politician in this role. I spend, an important part of my day is spent outside of district dealing with other groups, dealing with, and it sounds funny, going to Rotary meetings isn't always the fun of going to Rotary. It's the contacts you make in Rotary that impact your school. So I'm in the Sun City Rotary, and our Rotary group there probably puts $20,000 plus a year into the school, and that's increased from about $2,000 when I got to Gerald to now because I brought them into our schools. We have meetings in our school buildings. Our kids' culinary serve them lunch. They tour our programs. Same thing with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and we connect the chamber with our kids. And so it's that part of all of my job really is bringing the outside community into the school. And that has helped all of our programs, including our libraries and things like that. The other thing is, there's say no typical day. Most weeks, there's probably one day a week I get to go home at a normal hour because I'm not at some event. Usually I'm at, we need to be seen. It's being at the football game, being at the band concert, being at the theater play, trying to hit some of the open houses. I can't get those all the time because there's always conflicting stuff. But it's just being on campuses to talk to parents and community and seeing our kids do good things. And so, I'm blessed to have really great principals and really great staff that take care of the academic stuff. We oversee it. But the way we talk about it right now is I have 1 foot in this year and I have 1 foot in next year, and my hand is in 2 years from now, because we're building buildings. And so it's that stretch of where you are. So, that's the hard part. Is some things that go on now is you get to be involved with, but you're still thinking about that next piece. And then unfortunately, probably too much of my time is spent on personnel. And that personnel is not talking about the 97% doing great things. There's 3% doing bad things that take up probably 50% of our time on any given week. And so that's a brief overview.
And my day is very similar. This is the start of my 10th year as a superintendent. And my job then and will always be the head cheerleader of the district and promoting the great work that our educators are doing each and every day, promoting the great work that our students are doing each day. And there has not been a week that I've been in a district that I've not found my way into a building and talked with students and staff. Because I'm so visible, I'm sure that they don't say over the PA system, let's go get a lunch count, or let's put a red chair out in the hall, alerting folks that the superintendent is in. Yeah, you don't have any of that, and they'll probably say, oh, well, Thomas just came in the room today, because it's important. I mean, I cannot promote our school district. I cannot talk about the great things that are happening in public education, not just only in my district, but across this country, if I don't know what the heck's going on. I keep my teaching certification current. I keep my principal certification current, because at the end of the day, I'm an educator first. I'm a teacher first. Yes. When people ask me what I do, I very seldom say that I'm a superintendent. We very rarely get there. Not that I'm ashamed of it. It's one of the greatest jobs, one of the most influential jobs in America. But I'm an educator, and I need to stay sharp so I can support my teachers and I can support my students.
So how many unread emails are in your inbox right now?
I would say about 2,000.
Okay. Dr. Chapman?
I've gotten really good at hitting that spam button, and you have to be. We all laugh. When I wake up in the morning, obviously I'll wake up with 40 new emails that I didn't have the night before, and it's inevitable.
Yeah. And Stephanie, I'm glad you asked that question. If it's something very important to someone, they will call me. I've given my phone number to over 6,000 people. I'm going to give you my phone number. It's 614-446-1600. It's the same number that I've had since 1998. Yeah. I am yet to get a prank call, but if I get one today, I know who gave it to me, who sent it. It'll come from this audience.
The better part, there's not a single unanswered email from a staff member.
Right.
There is a lot from other things I may not get to, but not a single one from a staff member, because that's the part that matters. And so we get to them.
Yeah. We answer emails the best we can, but there's not a single phone call that's been made to my office that has not been returned, made on my phone or text messages. I'm connected to it.
So let's talk about librarians now. So we're obviously very fortunate to have two supportive superintendents here, but what role do you see librarians playing in your district right now? Where do you see that in 5 years? Tell us, the good, the bad, the ugly. What can we do to improve and hear from a superintendent's perspective?
He's looking at me, so
I'll go. It don't matter. My librarians are leaders of change. Simply and honestly, that's what we've done. As we've hired them over the years, I'm blessed to have a district librarian who pushes me all the time in a good way. She's very positive. She was going on, but when we selected the other librarians, we were intentional about who we wanted and what we wanted, because we want people who could grow and be that change part of a district. I rely on them a lot because, we go back to the literacy part, no matter what we do. My librarians are what can make reading fun. And that's the biggest piece. They make those kids love reading, love learning, because I don't care what happens. At the end of the day, if that kid enjoys reading, he doesn't have a literacy problem, period. Because they're reading because they enjoy it and what they get out of it. And so that's the key to that librarian. But they lead things. I want librarians who aren't afraid to put their foot into that campus and do things above and beyond and different, and sell in those principles on what they can do that lead professional development, that work with teachers to drive instruction and drive things in the classroom. And that on top of that, they find ways to help teachers make it easier to teach. And I think that's the key that you want. And it takes, I do not want a quiet librarian that says, throw your gum away. I want librarians who like controlled chaos and have 9,000 things going on. I mean, my middle school library, we got a green screen in one room, we've got puzzles everywhere, we got Legos, we've got, the stacks or books are still important, but our kids know what's going on. And they're in there before school, they're in there after school. My high school librarian serves coffee in the morning. My elementary librarian does all kinds of weird things. I don't even know there's pumpkins going up this week with their decorated books. I don't know it all, but it's all focused on getting kids in there, making it a space they want to be in, and that's the key to that kid's intellectual brilliance in the end, is because they like being in the library and they like reading.
Friends, repeat after me. This is a renaissance period for librarians. I can't hear you. Friends? By the way, my grandfather, my brother, my nephew, and his son are all Baptist ministers. So I'm going to keep going till I get the right call and response. Friends, this is a renaissance period for librarians. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And I have to share a quick story with you. I had planned on coming here Friday night and taking in Broadway, the street down there, Broadway. And I couldn't. One of our students made a dreaded mistake, and it was a very insensitive act that he committed. And this is one of the most rigorous classes that's offered in public education, AP Statistics. And his classmate took a picture of his insensitive act. And you have two things going on. You have the student being insensitive and not being culturally aware. And you have a student during class taking a picture of this and posting it immediately. When cell phones were not to be used then. We have a bring your own device policy. I think the cell phone can be used well, and it could be some problems as well if it's not used as intended. But I had to think, what if I had done a better job of empowering my media specialists, my librarians, to come in and speak with our students about etiquette, to reinforce it. We have a digital literacy night and a digital etiquette night, but that's just one event. So I say to you, friends, this is your time to not be afraid. Go to your superintendents and talk about the tremendous role that you play now and that you can play in the future. Because I tell you right now, digital literacy, digital citizenship are only going to become more and more important, because we're dealing with young people who are going to continue to make mistakes. And we talked a little bit about this last night. They're going to make mistakes just as we did, but the mistakes that they make right now will be life-changing, life-lasting. So who's better prepared than our librarians to teach our people not only how to properly access resources, how to properly research and discern fact from fiction, but also how to properly behave in this digital age. So as I make my way back home, I'm going to make sure that my district librarian, my director, and her assistants are all spending time in each class going forward, reinforcing these ideas.
Thank you. So we have 2 more questions that I want to get through before we open up for Q&A. So the next one is, you talked, and we talked about this yesterday morning. We all don't work for superintendents that are extremely supportive. And say someone does get in a meeting with their superintendent. What does the superintendent want to hear in that meeting if they're talking to a librarian?
They don't want a problem. They want a solution. Plain and simple. If you have a problem, you figure out the solution, present that solution to your campus principal, to your superintendent. I'll take it one step farther. Don't wait with the problem to go to them. Get them, make it where they have no choice but pay attention to what you're doing in your libraries. Tag them in every Twitter post you put out there. Email them updates of what you're doing. Just like we have, the best tool our teachers are using is social media when they showcase their kids and make mom and dad happy. Okay? Are you doing that for your library? In your case, your mom or dad, your principal, and your superintendent. Show them the things that you're doing in that library that aren't being accomplished elsewhere. Show them the critical thinking the kids are doing, the problem solving they're doing when they're active in those maker spaces, when they're doing all those and acquiring all those skills that will make them be better citizens, be better students, be successful in whatever they choose. Show those things and make it where they have no choice but to know what you're doing. Invite them to your library. Invite the school board to your library. Your superintendent may be resistant, and sometimes there are some that are. We know. You want the best way to get them? Invite the school board. Now, you might get permission first, but they're the key to maybe pushing that person more than what you can do. Do not be silent. Make your voice and your vision heard and shown of what you're doing. That's what you've got to do.
And just real quickly, if you do not, you'll have more superintendents and boards who are looking at cuts, and the first positions that they're going to cut are librarians and assistants. So please articulate your worth in terms of preparing students for higher ed. Because I'm here to tell you, there shouldn't be a modern college in this country where students who are walking in as freshmen are not taking classes in part or wholly online and being charged to, 1, be independent learners and thinkers, and 2, have the skill sets to download, the skill set to access information and resources to complete online assignments. And I'm pretty sure majority of our introductory English classes require it. The teacher's not going to sit there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as they did with us, lecturing in front of students.
And one more thing.
Okay.
Don't sell it just for what you're doing for your students. Get with that campus principal. Get with that curriculum PD person. Start showing the skills you have to teachers. Lead professional development. Because you know something? We don't have to pay you extra to come in and present something. We have the resource in front of us, and a lot of your principals, all your superintendents, don't know the skills that you may have. In their mind, they see the library of 20 years ago, come check your book out, come leave, we're done. Show them what you can do with your staff. And if you sell yourself because you are a change agent, you're a curriculum person, you're an instruction person, you're a professional development person, that makes you serve many roles. That makes you more valuable. That makes you less likely to not be there. Sell your value. Show your value. That's where you make a difference. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. So obviously we all want to leave here with some sort of homework, something that we can take back to our district. So the very, very quick version of this, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So like a tweet. I want you to make a tweet. Best leadership book that this group could read. And then also, what advice would you give to someone that's growing in a leadership role? 140 characters.
Leadership book, Jim Collins, Good to Great. Best advice in terms of being a leader, know thyself. Know who you are and what you are. And secondly, I think this was Aristotle who said that an education of the mind or without educating the heart is no education at all. Educate the heart first and foremost.
I have a stack of leadership books, and I read most of them. It's ridiculous. One that's always gone back to me is from my very first semester in my doctoral program at Sam Houston. It's a very simple read. Everyone's a Coach by Ken Blanchard and Don Shula. Breaks it down to coaching and leadership very simply. Just love it. Best advice, simple. Tell your story. You pick the medium, tell your story.
Thank you guys very, very much.
Well, I want to thank you all for pressing on telling your story. And I put it in the Twitter feed, but there is a school library renaissance map where you can drop the pin on your district and show to the nation all those gains that we are seeing around the country. So please pull that out of the Twitter feed and push it in your regions when you see the renaissance of school libraries, because that's telling your story.
Thank you for coming and sharing. I know you feel like you're preaching to the choir, but we do desperately need ways to get what you're saying out to other superintendents around the country. In Alabama, although we are way behind in so many things, and I won't apologize to y'all right now, but we are leaders in that we have mandated school librarians. We have lost our aides probably for the last 5 years. I see no way that we get them back. I'm actually the coordinator, which is only a title and a voice for my district, which has 33 schools. I still cannot make them understand, or I cannot speak to them in the terms that are correct, that we need somebody at the district level that is more than a 10-day at the beginning of the school year and a 10-day at the end of the school year. Can you give me some advice? Because I have a full-time library on top of that. What am I missing in talking to my superintendent to show them?
Do you have anybody in your district, administrative-wise, who feels that way? Find the person, campus principal level, district curriculum, whatever it may be. Find someone who has that same idea or that is more amenable to it to be your champion in the administrative world, and not necessarily in that library world. And so I think that may be your best way is find those library-friendly or library understanders and use that to leverage yourself.
Okay.
And I would also, have you had a night or an evening to showcase what your libraries are doing across your district? Maybe an open house?
We haven't. We were, last spring, I did get to go to the school board meeting, and I had the librarians in my district do a slide for all the different libraries as to what was going on, and we did actually were allowed to come, they back up the first week of the first board meeting, they did declare School Library Month for our district, which went ahead of the State Department, thank goodness. And then we did a little short presentation at the board, but I haven't yet invited the board to the school.
They're zoned out in that meeting. You're not there. It's a 5-minute presentation. They're not really there. That's not. I hate to tell you, they weren't paying that much attention because there's. I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's just they're inundated with information. It's ridiculous. But
I was pleased to get five to 10 minutes.
Get them on your campuses.
Okay.
Let them see in person the good things you're doing.
And I would assume that you are inviting your Board of Ed and community members in for National Reading Week and other reading celebrations, like Dot Day.
We really haven't, but we will.
You have to do. You're not going to bring about change if you don't get folks in your buildings, in your schools, to advocate for you and your students.
Get them in before you're asking for something. Sell it beforehand.
Well, let me say this. they did allocate money to us from the district level for the first time. So we are making progress. I just don't know how to, long-term turn that into what we need.
Get them involved. Get them in as tutors, as reading buddies.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Stephen Yates. I'm actually a product of that school system. I went to the school system. That's where I grew up. From where Leanna
Don't cheer
is.
too much. Alabama beat A&M last night. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I did just want to ask. I appreciate you are both being here, and we're inspired, and you're now Twitter celebrities. But I do want to ask, how do your librarians? How are they being professionally developed? How do you support your school librarians, and how are they being developed to be the best professionals they can be?
All of my librarians attend the TASLA TLA conference every year. They also do stuff in-house. My lead librarian, I pay for subs about a few times a year for them to get covered. They do close the library a couple times to go all four meet together. I love her to death, and she doesn't think about it. Go schedule it in advance and get the sub now, and then we'll figure it out later. But it's hard. There's no doubt. But I make sure mine have the ability to go to the conference every single year, first and foremost, which is a great conference in Texas to help get information. And I have never turned her down, and yet I encourage her to take part in. She was on the Texas State Library standards. I push her to go do things, and that's I never say no to her because it comes back in spades for Gerald ISD, no doubt about it.
Yeah, again, encouraging real-time professional development, evaluating the effectiveness of that professional development in our buildings and with our students, and just creating an overall atmosphere where people want to contribute. They want to take risks and so forth. They want to innovate. Again, if we had not created that culture, our librarians would not have applied for that very competitive grant.
Well, I will say, AASL, our new National School Library Standards are coming out next month, and I hope that both of your districts will be represented there. I know a lot of these wonderful people will be there, but I hope that you'll make sure that your librarians are at least having access to those standards and all of the great things that are happening, whether it's Future Ready or all of the great things. I mean, there's lots of wonderful pieces out there, and we've got to that's the connection we need now is voices like you speaking the language that we are putting out there and all the great work that our librarians are doing. So
We are a Future Ready district,
Yeah.
and you'll see representation from the Princeton City School District.
okay. Great.
Dr. Tucker, Dr. Chapman, thank you very much for being here. I suspicion that one of the issues between school librarians and administrators can be a misunderstanding of what the librarian's role is. And so I'm curious, in your preparation programs to become principals and superintendents, what were you told or taught about the role of a school librarian?
Was never discussed.
Nothing.
Never.
I rest my case.
Okay. Yes.
But then what are you doing to educate your principals? What are you doing to educate your assistant principals who will become principals? We're going to educate your assistant superintendents who will become superintendents. No one's getting anywhere. There's many programs that aren't taught in principal programs. It's not, because it's too much to go through. But take it upon yourself. How do you challenge yourself? And you mentioned, getting from superintendents. At your state level, are you going to your superintendent conference with a group of librarians or pro-library superintendents? Because they're not going to come to your conference, okay? I've been to TLA because I was invited because I gave an award. I received an award. I love going to it. It's great, okay? But the ones who aren't pro-library aren't going, but are you going to them? Is your state organization or your people going to that superintendent conference or that principal conference? There's where it'll make a difference.
All right, Rocco, I think last question.
I did want to dovetail off of that. My association has been going to the superintendent's conference. We've been knocking on the door at Springfield. We are working on professional development for our administrators. So we are in those administrator academies. What more can we do? I'm not concerned about my administrators. I've got them by the short hairs. But I'm concerned about that district next door that doesn't have anybody. and the district next door to them that doesn't have anybody in the library.
I'm going to push back on that. You do have someone, and the librarian in that district has an educational and moral obligation, to meet with his or her principals, superintendents, and board members to fight regarding the importance of the work that librarians do each day. But if you're going to sit back and do absolutely nothing, your positions will be the first ones cut. And and that's a shame. Again, we go back to your associations. Your associations must put pressure on lawmakers for additional funding. You must put pressure on your governors for additional funding.
And not just your organization,
Yes.
but partner with the Administrator Association, partner with the School Board Association, partner with those groups. Individually, you're not going to accomplish much because it gets too divided. But you start getting together and collaborating on common causes, you have a better chance of getting that way. And so maybe going that route with it is different than just the Librarian Association.
Dr. Tucker and Dr. Chapman, we thank you for being here. I don't work for SLJ. Sometimes, I feel like I do because I talk to Rebecca all the time. But we appreciate you being here. I know all the librarians from Nashville do as well. So are you guys going to be around a little bit longer?
A little longer, just a little longer, but thank you. Rebecca, round of applause for Rebecca.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you for
Yes.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.